Has anyone ever walked up to you while you're mixing and said, "Ooh, those are some nice looking fader positions," or "That's a nice looking EQ curve you got there"? You know, I kind of doubt it. More likely they said, "So you were planning on leaving it like that?" Or perhaps, "It's too loud." Today I want to go over one of the more obvious mixing concepts, but that we need to mix with our ears and not our eyes. This is the second video in a series where I go over some of the big concepts in audio mixing to help you get better mixes. Like at least half the reason why we like digital audio workstations or digital mixing boards is because there's so many blinky, flashy lights to look at. All of the spectrographs and EQ graphs, even things like meters or even things like fader positions can start distracting us from really using our ears and listening. These things are incredibly helpful tools and I wouldn't want to go without them. But at the same time too, if we over-rely on them, they can start becoming a crutch. All of our really critical mixing decisions have to be made with our ears. And this is one place where analog mixing boards might have the slight edge on digital mixing boards. Now, I would never want to go back to a fully analog system. I love the capabilities digital mixing boards allow us. But on an analog mixing board, there's really nothing to look at, and so you're forced to use your ears. As a church audio tech, I have the privilege of getting to introduce a lot of new people to mixing for the first time. And so many of them want something visual or they want specific numbers. They want me to tell them exactly where to put a fader, exactly which number of EQ frequency to use, and I answer them the same way basically every time. You have to listen for it. Sound mixing is a creative art form that uses technology. And you know, a lot of people think that tech people or IT people are the best people to maybe be your sound person. But I still maintain that mediocre musicians make the best sound people. The reason why this is because they want to be part of something creative, they want to be part of something powerful, but they're not actually quite good enough to be with the band. So they take up the challenge of learning how to mix audio. With sound mixing, every technical decision actually has creative impacts. Therefore, we must judge them with our ears. But then the question is, how do I develop an ear? The best ways I know to develop your ear are to mix as often as you can, to get feedback from other people, and to really take on critical listening. Take any opportunity you can to mix. If you can mix live anywhere, take that chance. Mix as often as you can at home. You can even get stems or audio tracks online. Make sure when you are mixing, you're working with EQs, compressors, levels, reverbs. Just play around and learn stuff. And then get someone to critique your mixes. But then you should develop the regular habit of critical listening. Critical listening essentially is listening to music with the intent of analyzing it. A simpler form of critical listening is simply listening to music and trying to figure out roughly how many different instruments and parts there are, how they're panned generally, the overall tone of them and what you like and don't like, what kind of effects you use, what kind of reverbs and delays. But then there's an advanced form of critical listening, some people even call mix mapping, where you actually get a spreadsheet and you list out every single instrument you can possibly think of. You try to get exactly where they're panned. You try to write down the specific kind of tonal shape or EQ you think might have been used, and on and on and on, every little detail you possibly can. I think these are both effective and both useful, but I think the first kind of critical listening you could even do in a car while you're driving or on a bus, or just while you're listening to music while you work. There's also ear training apps like soundgym.co that make a game out of ear training, and they're actually quite fun. So if you are mixing audio live, do your best to look up from the console as much as possible, and maybe even during rehearsal or sound check, actually walk away from the board. That way you're away from any visual distractions and you can really tune in and really listen for your mix. If you're mixing at home, start to get your mix dialed in, and then turn your monitor off. See how much that might affect how you perceive hearing it. We should use visual aids for exactly what they are, aids. But all of our critical decisions in mixing need to come from our ears. You and your audience will be glad you did.